As I was driving here today, I ran into a number, not literally, of stop signs and 2 dead-end signs. Somehow it seems that our world is filled with stop signs and dead-end signs. In the gospel today, Jesus warns us, beware of false messiahs who proclaim the end is near. And he reminds us in the gospel also that nation will rise against nation and threaten our perceived end for the future of peace in this world and harmony. As I listen to that, I ask, how many dead ends and stop signs can we add? How many dead end and stop signs do we experience every single day of our life, in our family, in our jobs, in our community? Now, we can wait for the world to change, or we can be the change that we want. Jesus did that in his time. Jesus became a living sign that brought about and embodied the very presence of God in his words and in his actions. And we gathered here today as God's people, as God's church, are the contemporary signs that point to God's future. God's mission as Jesus lived it, as we are called to live it, points the way so that all those dead ends that we encounter, all those stop signs that we encounter in our life, and that keep us from experiencing the wholeness, the fulfillment, and the salvation that God promises, can be torn down. So it's not the end of the world, but often there is an end to that particular stage of our world. Those stages of our world that become obstacles, those stages of our world that become dead ends and stop signs, and somehow no longer point to a world and a life that God intended for each and every one of us. The reconfiguration of our diocese is a big and sometimes a just a huge undertaking. You know that. We've been working on this for 2 years or 3 years. The underlying causes, the changing demographics, the economy, the aging of the priest, all except me, can certainly be seen as an obstacle. Those realities can be seen as dead ends and stop signs. Or it can be seen as a time to revitalize, renew, to refound, to recreate, and re-energize our church. Added together, St. Paul's and Our Lady of Peace have given over 160 years of service to the mission of God. Altogether, that amounts to 16 decades of re-envisioning the mission for our time and our history. So we are called as a diocese, as 2 parishes in our diocese, to a new beginning, as Bishop Murray announced this past May. Working toward that goal has called us to begin redefining how we envision that mission for our community. How we do this, we determine our future. And how we determine this will point the way to God's future. Whenever God began something new in the lives of people, they were given a new name. Abram was called Abraham. Simon was called Peter. Saul became Paul. Their new name embodied the very mission of God, and enabled their lives to point the way to God's future. We as two parishes, now merging as one community, will, I pray, allow the attitude of Christ to guide us through this re-envisioning of our history. The mission of God is too important for any one of us to allow our minds, our words, our hearts, our lives, or our attitude to become a dead end or a stop sign, rather than pointing the way to God's future. Each and every one of our lives is entrusted to us by God to do that, to point the way to God's future. Is there a cross here? Oh yeah. But we can do this, modeled after the one who in his own life had to take up the cross, the one who reminds us every time that we look at the cross that he came to serve, not to be served. The Christ, the servant. Well, the name of our churches do not change. The name of our parish does, representing a new beginning. The decree for this will be given by the bishop next week on the Feast of Christ the King. Well, the name of our churches remain Our Lady of Peace and St. Paul's. Our life as a parish will be, with the grace of God and our determination as a community of faith, it will become Christ the servant. And we will embody in that name what we are and what we choose to become in the name of God. I pray that you will help me, and I continue to promise that I will help you, that we will continue our pilgrimage. We will continue to journey into God's future. And as I mentioned to you over 18 months ago, I have no intentions, and I hope that we as a community have no intentions of backing into the future, but rather walking into the future with faith and fidelity and commitment. God bless you.